I stood on the balcony of my modest apartment, the city lights twinkling like tiny diamonds in the night sky. The world below was alive with energy, but my heart felt hollow. For years I had been engaged to James, a man admired for his groundbreaking designs in the fashion industry. To the world, he was a genius. To me, he was a man whose indifference had slowly chipped away at my soul. James's attention was often elsewhere, specifically on Rachel, his longtime girlfriend whom he claimed to have broken up with but never truly let go of. Over and over he chose Rachel, dismissing my feelings in the process. One unforgettable evening, we had planned a quiet dinner to celebrate my recent promotion within his company, a rare moment when I felt acknowledged. But just as I set the table, Rachel called, claiming she was in distress and needed James immediately. Without a second thought, he left, leaving me staring at the half-prepared meal. Later that night, Rachel posted a picture on social media of her and James laughing at a high-end restaurant, tagging it with, "Saved by my hero." The humiliation stung, but what hurt even more was James's complete dismissal of my anger when he returned. "You're overreacting," he said. "Rachel needed me. You'll understand if you care about me." That was the moment I realized just how little I mattered in his life. Another time, during one of my worst bouts of morning sickness, I called James from the office, asking him to come home early and help me. I could barely stand, let alone cook or clean. Instead of understanding, he sighed and said, "I'm in the middle of an important meeting with Rachel. Can't you manage on your own?" That night, I ended up on the bathroom floor, too weak to move. James came home hours later and barely glanced in my direction, muttering something about me being dramatic. It was moments like these, his dismissal of my pain, that made me realize I was utterly alone in our relationship. At the time, I didn't even know I was pregnant. Looking back, I remember lying on the cold bathroom floor, my body trembling from exhaustion and nausea, wondering if this was what my life would always look like. James's indifference was a cruel reminder that I couldn't rely on him, even in my most vulnerable moments. Rachel reveled in her position, frequently provoking me with subtle jabs and flaunting her closeness to James. Whenever we attended company dinners or gatherings with his friends, Rachel would act coquettishly around James, laughing at his every word and finding excuses to touch his arm. It was humiliating, and when I finally gathered the courage to confront James about how disrespected I felt, he brushed me off. "Don't be willful, Ava. Rachel is young, and you're old enough to know better." His words stung deeply. Did he not realize that Rachel and I were the same age? The blatant dismissal of my feelings left me questioning why I had ever believed I mattered to him. I tried to confront him, to make him see how her actions were affecting me and our relationship, but he always brushed it off as jealousy or insecurity. When I found out I was pregnant, I was overwhelmed with happiness. I couldn't wait to share the news with James, hoping it would bring us closer together. That evening, I prepared a special dinner and told him the news with tears of joy streaming down my face. For a moment, James seemed genuinely happy, pulling me into a warm embrace. But just as I began to savor his rare show of affection, his phone dinged with a message. In an instant, his expression changed. "I've got to go," he said, grabbing his coat and leaving me alone at the dinner table. The first month of my pregnancy was one of the loneliest times of my life. James missed every doctor's appointment, claiming he had urgent business matters to attend to. I later discovered that many of these business matters involved Rachel, who continued to insert herself into our lives. Despite my growing exhaustion and emotional turmoil, I worked tirelessly alongside James to support his business, trying to hold on to the hope that things would improve. But with every missed appointment and indifferent response, the reality of his neglect became impossible to ignore. The breaking point came when Rachel posted a picture of her kissing James on a bed, his eyes closed as if in sleep. Though she quickly deleted it, She sent me a mocking message saying, "Sorry, not for you, Ava." The sight of that picture shattered me, and the stress brought on a sharp, unbearable pain in my stomach. Panicking, I tried to call James, but he didn't answer. Desperate and in agony, I somehow managed to dial 911. Despite their efforts, I lost the baby. It felt as though my child didn't want to come into a world where her father didn't care for her. The next day, grief-stricken and still in physical pain, I called James to ask for leave. Instead of any concern or compassion, he coldly said, "Don't play the pregnancy card with me." I told him I had miscarried after a moment of silence. He coldly added, "If you can't come, then don't bother coming back to the company. You don't have to make such a joke." Those words crushed me. I realized I wasn't just battling Rachel's provocations. I was fighting for space in a relationship where I would always come second. The word "okay" escaped my lips, a hollow echo in the face of his escalating frustration. His voice, once a comforting baritone, now shattered the air, each syllable a tiny assault. I couldn't bear it another second. With a defiant flick of my wrist, I disconnected the call, the abrupt silence a strange comfort. Dawn painted the sky in hues of bruised purple and sickly yellow, a fitting backdrop to the dawn of my new life. With a trembling hand, I zipped my last suitcase shut, the sound echoing through the cavernous emptiness of James's penthouse. The air, thick with the scent of expensive cologne and lingering regret, seemed to suffocate me. I didn't need to glance back. The opulent marble floors, the designer furniture, the life I had built with him. It all felt like a gilded cage. Clutching my sketchbook to my chest, its leather cover worn smooth by countless hours of sketching, I hailed a cab. It was my lifeline, a tangible link to the dreams I had almost buried beneath the weight of his indifference. This sketchbook, filled with vibrant sketches of flowing gowns and avant-garde silhouettes, was a testament to the passion I had sacrificed for him, a passion that now burned brighter than ever. The 2 days that followed were a blur of overpriced hotel coffee, sleepless nights, and the incessant hum of city traffic. Each tear I shed felt like a stone being lifted, a weight released. I finally booked a flight to my hometown, a place where the air was fresher and the memories less suffocating. It was time to rediscover myself, to piece together the shattered fragments of my confidence, and to reignite the fire that had been extinguished by his neglect. With a trembling finger, I composed the message, "Let's break up." No explanations, no justifications, no lingering hope, just a stark, undeniable truth. As I hit send, a strange sense of liberation washed over me. I had finally taken back my power, my voice, my life. Back in the peaceful embrace of my hometown. A yearning for a life I'd almost forfeited for James ignited within me. I remembered an overseas opportunity I'd reluctantly declined to pursue for his sake. With a trembling hand, I dialed my mentor from college. "Professor," I began, my voice thick with apprehension, "can you possibly recommend me? I know I disappointed you, but could you perhaps offer your support one last time?" 2 days later, I met with the professor when he came to my hometown for some inspiration. When we met, I poured out everything that had happened in my life. Listening intently, he sympathized with me and handed me a recommendation letter. His reassuring smile, though faint, comforted me in ways I hadn't expected. A long silence followed, a heavy weight settling in my stomach. I braced myself for the inevitable rejection. Then his voice, gruff yet laced with warmth, cut through the silence. "You were always my favorite, Ava," he said. "I'm glad you've come to your senses. Honestly, I worried about you when you were in college, particularly about that James fellow. But as they say, hindsight is 20/20. Whatever happened, happened. Now focus on your career. You have the talent." Determined to rebuild my life, I threw myself into my work with renewed vigor. To ensure absolute privacy, I changed my phone number, severing all ties with my past. Nights blurred into days as I spent countless hours sketching, sewing, and experimenting in my new company's bustling workshop. My perseverance paid off. A well-deserved promotion landed me a coveted spot at a prestigious Fashion Week show, a chance to finally unveil my unique vision to the world. Within months, the industry buzzed with whispers about the new kid on the block. My innovative designs, a fusion of classic elegance and bold modernity, captivated the attention of seasoned critics and discerning buyers alike. Emboldened by this success, I launched my own label, Ava Grace, a poignant reminder of the resilience and grace I had discovered within myself. My new company boss, impressed by my dedication and talent, generously offered his support, connecting me with influential figures in the fashion industry. Within a year, Ava Grace had blossomed into a thriving collaboration with my former employer, a testament to the power of perseverance and the enduring strength of the human spirit. At one of my first major fashion shows, I met Sebastian, a celebrated designer whose work I had always admired. During our first conversation, he teased me gently about my nerves. "Relax, Ava," he said with a charming grin. "You're already the most talented designer in this room. Let the others worry about keeping up with you." His confidence in me felt like a balm to my soul. Our connection deepened over shared late-night brainstorming sessions. One evening, as we worked on final touches for an upcoming show, Sebastian looked up from his sketch pad and said, "You know, Ava, your designs have a story, strength and vulnerability intertwined. It's beautiful." His words made me feel seen, in a way I hadn't felt in years. Over those 2 years, I scarcely thought of James. His name became a distant echo, overshadowed by the warmth of Sebastian's presence and the joy of rediscovering myself. With every shared laugh and moment of understanding, Sebastian filled the void James had left, leaving no space for regret or longing for a past that had only brought me pain. As we spent more time together, our professional camaraderie shifted into something more personal. After one particularly grueling day, he brought me coffee and said with a wink, "If I'm being honest, I only stick around because I enjoy seeing that determined look on your face when you're creating." I found myself smiling more, my heart slowly healing in Sebastian's presence. He admired not just my talent, but also my resilience and independence, encouraging me to embrace the full scope of my potential. Meanwhile, James's career began to falter. His reputation crumbled under the weight of uninspired designs and a dwindling client base. The whispers at the reunion party I attended confirmed it. Once a revered name, James had become a shadow of his former self. Someone at the gathering mentioned he had lost a major deal due to his inability to innovate, while another spoke of Rachel's blatant interference in his business decisions. They said she had tried to take credit for ideas she didn't understand, leading to public embarrassment. When I heard all this, I waited for a pang of sadness, perhaps even pity. But my heart remained still, untouched by the echoes of his downfall. Instead, I felt a calm resolve. The woman who would have once crumbled at the thought of James's disapproval was gone. Listening to these stories, I realized how far I had come, not just in my career but as a person. His attempts to reach out, to rekindle what he had so carelessly destroyed, painted his face with an expression of regret that might have once softened my heart. But now, those gestures felt empty, distant cries in the void, drowned by the chorus of my self-worth and the life I had rebuilt without him. If anything, I silently thanked the universe for showing me the life I had narrowly escaped. As I left the party that night, walking under the glow of streetlights, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. James was a chapter I had closed long ago, and the story I was writing now was infinitely more beautiful and fulfilling. James tried to talk to me again after the party, his face etched with regret as he approached me. "Ava, please, just give me a moment," he pleaded, his voice trembling. with an emotion I hadn't heard from him before. I looked at him, my expression impassive, my heart unmoved. "I don't have anything to say to you," I replied, my voice steady, each word measured. His shoulders sagged, but I didn't linger to see if he would say more. Turning on my heel, I walked towards Sebastian, who stood by his car, waiting for me with an easy smile. "Everything okay?" Sebastian asked as he opened the car door for me. I nodded, a small smile playing on my lips. "It is now," I said, stepping into the car, leaving James and the remnants of my old life behind me. Sebastian's unwavering support and love became the steady rhythm of my life, a melody of joy I had never known before. On a sun-drenched afternoon in Paris, the city of dreams, he knelt before me under the shadow of the Eiffel Tower. The crowds seemed to fade away as he held out a delicate ring, his voice trembling with emotion. "Ava," he began, his eyes locking with mine. "You've brought light into my life in ways I never thought possible. Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving how much you mean to me?" Overwhelmed by a rush of emotions, love, gratitude, and a deep sense of belonging, I felt tears spill down my cheeks. "Yes," I whispered, my voice breaking as I nodded, letting joy wash over me. In that moment, surrounded by the golden glow of the Parisian sunset, I knew I had found a partner who saw me for all that I was, and cherished me completely. Our wedding was a vivid tapestry, woven with threads of love, resilience, and creativity. Each moment felt like a poetic triumph over the storms we had weathered. Together, we stood as a beacon of hope in the fashion world, our story a testament to perseverance and the power of true partnership. As I walked down the aisle, my heart swelled with gratitude and a profound sense of peace. The faces of our loved ones blurred behind a haze of tears, but Sebastian's gaze anchored me. In that moment, I knew I had not only conquered my past, but also carved a future brimming with unshakable love and fulfillment. If you like this story, hit the like button and subscribe for more stories like these only at StoryTimes.